Russia defends troops in Venezuela, says U.S. nervous. Russia has defended its military presence in Venezuela amid warnings from the United States, whose plans for regime change Moscow claims have been thwarted. The presence of up to 100 Russian personnel spotted last week in the Venezuelan capital of Caracas has worsened already tense relations between the world's top two military powers, each of whom has backed separate sides in Venezuela's ongoing political and economic crisis. Russia has thrown it. In a statement published Saturday, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova addressed how they. The remarks came days after President Donald Trump warned that in ensuring that Russia withdraws from the socialist-led Latin American state, and just one day after Elliot Abrams, Washington's envoy to Venezuela, asserted that for reportedly helping the South American country prepare the S-300 surface-to-air missile defense system for combat. Russia has previously sent military personnel and equipment to Venezuela, most notably in December, when the two conducted joint air drills over the Caribbean in a sign of solidarity against U.S. sanctions and threats of intervention. A month later, Russia and China were among those, however, and have increased their support for Maduro in the face of mounting U.S.-backed efforts to oust him. All three major the reappearance of Russian military personnel and a recent Chinese plane have stoked U.S. concerns that its vision for Venezuela may be losing momentum. These events have all it. The U.S. has against left-wing forces across the continent. The current such Amadayam range, land-launched missiles were later banned as part of the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces INF, reached by the Cold War rivals in 1987, but the White House suspended the deal last month as the US and Russia exchanged accusations that the other was violating the agreement. Washington claimed. Trump said Friday that he planned on speaking with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping about the situation in Venezuela, but the state-run TASS Russian news agency cited a Kremlin source as saying that the White House had yet to request any such call.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.